It's sweet election music. Welcome to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper, live in Washington, D.C., and we're just down the street from the U.S. Capitol. And key races tonight will help decide which party has the power there for the second half of President Trump's second term. Voters casting their ballots today in 6 states: Kentucky, Georgia, Alabama, Pennsylvania, Idaho, and Oregon. 4 states and 2 Commonwealths, really. With the first polls closing in just moments in one of tonight's key races, and that, of course, is Kentucky, where President Trump is seeking to nail a Thomas Massie-sized pelt on his wall tonight in one of the most expensive primaries ever. Congressman Massie has repeatedly drawn the president's ire, pushing for the full release of the Epstein files, voting against key budget items, criticizing the Iran war, the alliance with Israel, and much more. Another marquee race we're watching tonight down in Georgia, where President Trump has not endorsed a candidate as Republicans decide who they want to challenge incumbent Democratic Senator Jon Ossoff. That race widely considered to be one of the GOP's top opportunities to pick up a seat in the U.S. Senate. And in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Republicans will pick their challenger to Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro, who is frequently mentioned in conversations about the presidential race of 2028. Pennsylvania also home to a number of key House races, including a primary in Philly between a Democratic Socialist and a more traditional Democrat. We're going to be following all the races across the country as the votes start to come in tonight after you beautiful people get to actually cast your ballots. And we are watching the votes coming in from the Commonwealth of Kentucky, where Republican Congressman Thomas Massie is fighting for his political life. And with 4% of the vote in, 5% of the vote in, he is losing. There's still a lot of votes left to count. But Ed Galrin, the Trump-endorsed challenger, is ahead, 54.6% to Thomas Massie's 45.4%. But that's only a 585 vote advantage by Ed Galrin at this stage. We're going to bring you updates all night in this race and others.
Out front next, the breaking news, the final polls just closing in the biggest test yet of Trump's revenge tour. The president aiming to take down Republican Tom Massie in Kentucky. And the results are coming in this hour. John King is here to break it all down. Plus, polls closing in Georgia this hour. Did the Republicans flub their best chance of flipping a Senate seat there? And a major endorsement tonight, upending a crucial race. It is a special edition of Out Front, Election Night in America. Let's go Out Front. And good evening, I'm Erin Burnett, and welcome to this special edition of Out Front, Election Night in America. Well, there are 6 states altogether holding elections tonight, with control of Congress ultimately at stake. All right, so you can see them all lighting up on your map there. But let's start right now. All eyes on the biggest race of the night. That's in Kentucky. Final polls there are just closing. President Trump is determined to take out the Republican Thomas Massie there. Now, this has become the single most expensive primary race in history. $33 million spent over the past few months. Now, just to be clear, this race should have cost exactly $0 because Massie's a Republican. He votes overwhelmingly with Trump. He's an incumbent, right? All of the reasons. But Trump turned on Massie after Massie fought for the release of the Epstein files. That was the break. And now here we are, $33 million into unseating him. The first results from that crucial race are just starting to come in as polls are all closed. So we're bringing this to you as we get it. As you can see right now, these are just results coming in here all in. You can see right now you're just under 7,300 or 400 or so votes. So we're just starting to get early results right now. Thomas Massie is down, but this is so early on, 6% reporting. Can't read anything into it right now, but we'll see in these next few moments if we are able to make a call as those numbers come in. We're going to keep showing you these boards as we also follow crucial races in Georgia, where polls have also just closed. Georgia Republicans voting on the nominee who will take on the vulnerable Democratic Senator Jon Ossoff this November. Now, this is crucial for Democrats. They have to hold on to the seat if they want to win the Senate. And there is no clear Republican frontrunner on this, which means the race could lead to a runoff next month. And that gives Ossoff a major advantage. So this one is another crucial to watch. Also, Pennsylvania, polls closing soon there tonight. That is where Democrats think they have one of the best chances in the country to flip a seat in November. They are focused on taking out Congressman Ryan McKenzie, a vulnerable Republican. He narrowly won in 2024. And Democrats tonight are choosing the candidate that is going to go against Mackenzie. So let's, as I said, there's so many races going here. I want to make a breaking news here. We do have a projection to make in Kentucky, and we can now project that Andy Barr will win the Republican primary for the Senate in Kentucky. Now, this one's important because Trump had endorsed Andy Barr. This is Mitch McConnell's seat that he's retiring from. All right, more breaking news. Polls closing just a few moments ago in Georgia. And Georgia tonight is home to one of the biggest races in the country. And the race there could decide which party controls the Senate. So let's look at the first numbers early tonight. A crowded field of Republicans. So it's been rather chaotic, but you can see they're all running for the right to challenge Jon Ossoff, who is the most vulnerable Democratic senator on the ballot, a seat that Democrats must hold on to if they have any hopes of winning the Senate. We've just got early numbers coming in. Obviously, Keisha Lance Bottoms is way ahead on these early numbers, 66%. All right. Thank you very much, John King. So let's just get that board up here, Estad, as we look through it, because it went from 49% of the vote reporting up to now 60%. If we'll get that board here when we get a chance to an 8-point margin. So it's shrunk a little bit. But
yeah,
as John said, the math at some point becomes insurmountable. And obviously, we're not at that point. We're not calling it. But you now have 60% of the vote in. Breaking news, we have a projection to make in Kentucky. CNN can now project that Ed Gallrein will win the Republican primary against Thomas Massie for the 4th Congressional District in Kentucky. And that is a seismic political decision made by voters in Kentucky tonight.
Returning to our CNN primary coverage, CNN can report that another Trump critic has lost tonight. Georgia gubernatorial candidate and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. You'll remember he was a prominent debunker of the president's 2020 election claims. CNN's Arlette Saenz is in Atlanta. I want to go back to her. Arlette?
And I do want to note for a quick moment here, we have some breaking news on my home state. CNN is now projecting that Senator Tommy Tuberville will win the Republican primary for governor of Alabama. Obviously, that is someone who is a big ally of the president's, David Urban, when it comes to what this race is looking like. And he's going to find himself up against Doug Jones come November.
We've got some breaking news to leave you with. CNN projects Keisha Lance Bottoms will be the Democratic nominee to be Georgia's next governor. The former Atlanta mayor and Biden White House official beat out DeKalb County CEO Michael Thurmond, former state senator Jason Estevez, and former Republican Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, who is running as a Democrat. She earned more than 50% of the vote to avoid a runoff. She will face the Republican candidate who has to win their runoff. If elected in November, Lance Bottoms will be the first woman and first African American ever to lead the state.
Several unpredictable races have also been playing out in the state of Georgia. The Republican race for governor, it is going to a runoff next month since no candidate received more than 50% of the vote on Tuesday. Trump-backed Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones will be battling healthcare billionaire Ray Jackson for that nomination. The winner of the runoff will be facing former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, who is celebrating this morning her landslide win in the Democratic governor's race. Bottoms could eventually become the first black woman governor in the United States. And Georgia's Republican Senate race, it is also heading to a runoff. Trump-endorsed Congressman Mike Collins expected to face off against former football coach Derek Dooley, who's endorsed by Georgia's outgoing governor.
This morning, a stunning display of muscle within his own party. But Politico suggests Trump's grip on the party threatens his grasp of Congress. We'll have more on that in a moment. First, the president got his wish in Kentucky, ousting incumbent Republican Congressman Thomas Massie. This after Massie led the charge to force the Justice Department to release the Epstein files. In his concession speech, Massie was defiant.
By the way, today is the 6-month anniversary of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. We've taken out 24 CEOs, an ambassador, a prince, a prime minister, a minister of culture. And that was just 6 months. I got 7 months left in Congress.
Also in Kentucky, the president's candidate Andy Barr won the Republican Senate primary there to replace Mitch McConnell. In Georgia, in the Georgia Republican Senate primary, Trump ally Mike Collins and Derek Dooley, who was endorsed by the state's Republican Governor Brian Kemp, are headed for a runoff. So it's a Trump candidate versus a Kemp candidate. The biggest political earthquake, though, was in Texas, and the aftershocks felt on Capitol Hill. President Trump issued a last-minute endorsement of Attorney General Ken Paxton over Republican Senate incumbent John Cornyn ahead of a runoff next week. So we're watching that closely.
Two key Republican primaries going into overtime. In the Republican Senate primary, Trump's ally Mike Collins and Derek Dooley, who was endorsed by the state's Republican Governor Brian Kemp, who's also very popular, are headed for a runoff next month. And in the governor's race there, also going to a runoff after neither Trump-backed Burt Jones nor Rick Jackson cleared the 50% threshold that they needed.